Over the course of this last year, we've covered a fair amount of different car classes on this channel. Since I'm trying to compare sim racing to as many real-life events as possible, that's only the natural order of things. Without any urgency or deadlines, however, there is one type of racing that has gotten a whole lot less love from me. So with today's episode, we're starting a series that can hopefully change the lack of vintage cars on this platform. The main focus being to see how racers of yesteryears managed to tame their beasts. This is Vintage Machines, and today we're taking a look at 1970s Formula 1 cars. Let's set the scene before we hit the track. Today we're going back to 1975. We're still some years before Bernie took over the marketing department and transformed F1 into the worldwide show it is still to this day. But teams were turning into big organizations already. One of the areas where most advancements were made is the Aerodepartment. Gone are the cigar-shaped cars of the 60s, from now on cars would have wings. And just like that, drivers became pilots. Now don't get me wrong here, F1 was still a bit of an experimental laboratory when it came to aerodynamics, and the underfloor of the car was still vastly underutilized, as ground effects would only start emerging at the end of the decade. Engine-wise, almost all cars ran the 3-liter Ford Gazette V8, with the only exception being BRM with its V12, and Ferrari, of course, that ran a flat 12. Power-wise, this creates a nice 450 to 500 horsepower to play with, depending on the car and team that ran it. Paddock side of things, this was smack in the middle of the Hunt-Lauda rivalry. 1976 being the year of Lauda's tragic accident at the Nürburgring, 1975 would be a decisive win for Ferrari. Mclaren was another force of the field, with Tyrrel showing promise, Lotus always ready to fight, Brabham making the British proud, and Hesketh, the team that got dragged onto the 4th place in the championship by Hunt. When you look further than the obvious Hunt-Lauda rivalry, it's apparent how competitive this field was, with race winners, confirmed champions, and future champions and winners populating the field. This year also marked the last year a driver partaking in the 1950 F1 season would start a race. And with the scene set, today we embark on a journey to find out how these drivers tamed their beasts. For today's showcase, I've chosen the Tyrrel 007, Tyrrel being an iconic brand synonymous with the early 70s racing. I just had to go for this car. Tyrrel is also the team that brought Jackie Stewart to win the Formula 1 championship. And for all of these reasons, this car is a sight to behold on a racetrack. And so today we are going to take a look at what it is like to actually drive this car. We're at Kyalami for a 7-lap race, which should take about 10 minutes. Notoriously bad start from the Assetto Corsa AI is indeed in this video as well. Look at that grid, absolutely beautiful. We're actually not at a period correct Kyalami. This is supposedly Kyalami 1967, but I couldn't find a period correct mod. Still though, the racetracks didn't change that much between the 60s and the 70s, so this should still accurately portray the 1975 Formula 1 race at Kyalami. So we take a wonderful start, no mistakes from the AI, nothing really happening. We're very cautious, of course, but still, it seems to be working very well here in Assetto Corsa, and this grid looks absolutely beautiful, certainly on this track. Such a colorful combo, and such an awesome thing that we can do in Assetto Corsa. I actually didn't even know there was a 1975 seasons mod that was so well made, and this is, again, like always with these vintage mods, made by Bazza, who did an amazing job of recreating this. Every car has its own particular features that you need to handle with. They will all handle differently, and still they all have the right characteristics for a 70s Formula 1 car, and they feel very believable. As I completely missed my gear there. That's a problem with
having a gearbox that allows for seven gears. Oh, look at that. And the sounds as well. This is such a great experience, not gonna lie. I absolutely love this. And while I'm enjoying myself, let's maybe try and make sense of what kind of performance you can expect from a 70s Formula 1 car. These cars came, of course, right after the 60s era with very long cigar-shaped Formula 1 cars. These cars had absolutely no aero to speak of, or very little, if they had any. Was a bit surprised that I missed my gear there, but apparently I released the clutch a bit too early. And so this was really the beginnings of the aero engineering as we know it. So these cars have quite little aero for the size of the wings they have, in my opinion. I don't know if that makes any sense, but comparatively to size, the wings have not the best workings, let's say, which is not a bad thing, of course. It's just the best that there was in the day. Formula 1 always pushing the limit and really becoming a laboratory for well, other race classes and road cars in the likes in the 70s. So this is the beginnings of the engineering. Of course, Colin Chapman did some amazing works on the Lotus at the end of the 60s as well. And after this would come the big turbo cars, with ground effects being first used in 1978 by Lotus. The Lotus 78 was the one that premiered it, and then the turbo would be used for the first time in 79 by Renault. So that was the era after. This sits right in between, and I think this is a great way for anyone looking to get into vintage racing to start off. These 70s cars are actually quite easy to handle. They have relatively low amounts of downforce for the size of the wings, but it still helps a lot in the corner. And this, what I'm actually describing is an aero that's a little bit understeery, which is of course beginner friendly. On the other side, the tires are also quite forgivable, which permits you to play around a little bit with the balance of the car in the corner, throw it around there, and maybe push a little more than another car would allow you to, and would punish you for it. Of course, nowhere near the levels that a 50s or a 60s car would allow you to play with the tires and to throw the car around, drifting about. But it's still surprising to me how much you can really get away with these tires. On the other side of things, we have the engine as well, which is, like I said in the intro, about 450 to 500 horsepower, the Ferrari being the most powerful engine on this grid, and it should totally blow everyone away on the straights. Niki Lauda and Ferrari had such a great combo going, and they just demolished the field, working very well together, showing their dominance, and only would be beaten in 76 by Hunt because of Lauda's absence in a way. And that's of course the whole story of Rush, which is a movie that apparently is on Netflix now. So this should be your chance to go check it out if you haven't heard of the great Lauda Hunt story. But this field was much more than just Lauda and Hunt, and so many amazing drivers were on this field. My personal hero, Jackie Ickx, was still alive and well in Formula 1. Well, alive, I mean, he's still alive, but he was racing, and he was racing in an absolutely beautiful car, which is the Lotus 72. And the car is actually some cars ahead. They're like 4 cars ahead, something like that. Anyway, I was talking about the power output, and because it's only about 450 to 500 power that you get through the wheel, and it's a naturally aspirated engine. The torque of these cars is not that big, and it's actually quite easy to get the power down with these cars. Let's go around the outside. Oh, that's a great thing, because the downforce of these cars, whew, that was close, is not as high as, for example, modern Formula 1 cars. The dirty air in these cars is very low, and you can get some very close battling, even in the corners. Wow, spitting flames ahead. These mods, man, the quality of these mods is unbelievable. And it's such a colorful field, I can't say it any way else. These cars have massive chimneys on top of them. They all have very distinct paint schemes, and you can really recognize the cars if you know all the teams, which is, I believe, kind of difficult to know. A lot of these teams don't exist anymore, or were only very briefly in Formula 1. So if you are not familiar with 70s Formula 1 racing, then I missed my gear again. Look at that. God damn it. You need to learn how to drive shift, which I normally can do, but apparently in a video it gets a little bit difficult. But if you learn to drive shift, and you really should learn to race with a shifter, even if just to race with these cars around Kyalami. Oh, god damn it. What a world we live in. You can just go back to 70s cars and enjoy it the way, I guess, spectators and drivers of the day used to love it. We have the Ferrari in front of us, which is actually not exactly period correct, I believe. This is the 76 car. In 75 the chimney wasn't as high. I absolutely hated the height of the chimney when I was, well, of the air intake, I mean. Ooh, I got hit a little bit there. When I was a child, I didn't really like it, but I think that it's something that you learn to love. It's a bit of an acquired taste. And when you know the engineering behind it and the history of these cars, the fact that this was the beginning of modern engineering in F1, in a way, well, you learn to appreciate it. And that was our 7-lap race. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel and put on the notifications to be notified of any future videos from me. You can also leave a like or a comment down below if you want to. I try to reply to any comments on every single one of my videos, or you can check out one of these recommended videos. Anyway, have a wonderful day, guys, and I'll see you space racers in the next one. Goodbye.